Welcome to the Dice Tower, a series of video reviews about board and card games. Here are your hosts, Tom Vasel and Sam Healey.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel.
Sam Healey.
Today we're taking a look at the weirdly named Besieged.
B.Sieged.
Now I was excited about Besieged because of several things. It's cooperative. It's cool mini or not.
Yeah.
And when we opened the box, the miniatures were really good.
Really good.
Yeah. Nothing short of amazing.
Yes.
This seems like a slam dunk. Let's take a look at the game. Now each player is going to control a character. Unless you're playing with 3 or 2, then you're going to control 2 characters. And each character has a special ability that they have. They have a strength that's out in the corner. This guy is the only guy with a strength 2. Everyone else's strength is 1. They have 3 spots where they're able to store cards, and it tells you the type and colors of cards that can be stored there. And they also come with their own model, and each of them has a different model. And you can see all the models here, and there's even a colored base that you can put on each one so you can easily tell them apart on the board. Players have 3 tracks on their board. They have a gold track, they have a morale track, which is really hit points, and then they have a food track. Now food is used for a couple things. There are times where you'll be able to level up over the course of the game. When that happens, you will pay food, you'll draw 2 of these. You can either keep it to increase your strength, or you can flip them over and basically pick between them. So for example, this one here increased my strength by 2, or this one here in zone 3 I hit on a 4+, rather than normally in zone 3 you hit on a 6+. And then the next one costs 3 food, 4 food, and 5 food, but the levels and the abilities get better. Now, the game takes place over seasons, and at the end of each season, you have to pay 2 food for your people, or they instantly die. Now, in this game, when characters die, they will come back after a turn. If everyone's dead at the same time, then you lose. But they will come back after a certain amount of time, although you'll lose any upgrades or anything that you have. I will make mention of this now because I forgot to make mention of it in our final thoughts, but I hate the food mechanism. We already have seen this in Agricola and other Euro games. Why is it here? It's another thing to keep track of. It's another, go get more food and stuff. A real pain in the neck. Oh, but anyway, back to the rest of the review. Here is the entire board setup. It's made up of several small boards, but it's essentially just one big board. In the center is the castle that you are defending, and on the outside are the areas where the troops are coming from. Now, I said earlier that the game is going to take place over 4 seasons. There are 12 turns. At the end of each turn, you have to pay food, and then some things are going to change. The things that are going to change are over here. You have kind of a marketplace, and you're going to bring in a certain number of cards. So let's say you're playing 4 players for each character that's in the game. And so I'm going to bring these over so that there's 4 market cards, there's 4 tavern cards, 4 armory cards, and 4 sorcery cards. Now, if other than the first turn, you're going to always draw an event card. The first turn you don't, but after that you'll draw an event card. Each event card has a number. 1s usually are helpful. 3s are bad, 5s are worse, and it goes all the way up to 10, and 10 are just nastily horrible events. And you can customize the event deck to make it easier if you want to take out some of the bad ones, which we did, and we still lost, but that's not the point. So here, each hero rolls a yellow die and adds that result to his gold track. Well, that's fantastic. A yellow die is included with the game. That is basically a 3-sided die. 1, 2s, and 3s. You're going to pick at the beginning of the game. Your goal in this game is to have a messenger move out, escape the city. He'll come back one way. He'll be followed by a bunch of bad guys and get back. You do that, you win. All the heroes die, you lose. If the messenger dies twice, yes, he can get killed, you lose. Because at the beginning of each round, you are going to look at these 3 cards. There are enemy cards which are placed here. There are 3 main types of enemies: Krons, Molan, and Gargons. These cards could all be the same. It depends on how they're randomly placed. But you're going to roll a die. I rolled a B, So Molen are going to spawn here. 2 of them. That's actually a pretty light roll for me. So I'm going to spawn 2 Molens, and they're going to sit in this area here. If I had spawned Crones, I would have spawned 6 of them. 1 of them would have been an elite Crone, the leader, and then the other 5 would just be ordinary ground Crone units. If I had spawned Gargons, I would have spawned 4 of them. 1 of them would have been a leader, this guy riding on this beast, and then the other 3 would have been normal. Now I only roll once. If you're playing with 5 or 6 players or 3 players and you have 2 characters each, you're going to spawn twice on 2 of the boards or twice on 1 of the boards. You will spawn 1 time for each player. So you're going to do that spawning for each board around here. And you'll see there are plenty of bad guys who are ready and willing to come out. Now a couple things. If you need to put out bad guys and there's no more of that type, you just put out some of a different type. There's kind of a rock, paper, scissors thing going on. If you run out of monsters totally to put out, then this big, mean, nasty guy comes out. Or if you roll, there's this side is A, B, B, C, C. If you roll the same symbol 3 times in a row, this big guy comes out. Now these guys are going to be marching towards it. If one of these regular troops gets in, or if the big guy gets in, you will automatically lose. The big guy has hit points here. You'll keep track of them on this track, and you have to take that out, and then he'll be gone, or at least for a while. So the enemy spawns, and now you're going to take turns in the middle. Each player has actions that they can take, and for their 3 actions, players can go to one of the buildings and do whatever that building says. They can go to the wall and try to fight the enemy troops, or they can go to the catapult and do something with the catapult. Now the catapult's fun. When you go to the catapult, you can spend 1 action to rotate it. When you rotate the catapult, you roll this blue die. If you roll this symbol, the catapult breaks, it just crams up and nothing happens. Otherwise, you simply rotate it to the spot you want to. To fire the catapult, you're going to shoot into zone 3. There are 3 zones. And you'll roll the die, and the number of skulls you roll is how many hits you get. If you roll this, you get nothing, and if you roll this, you hit nothing. Now, each enemy, so we'll take a look here at the Molen, for example. They're the guys, well, they're not the ones in there now, but each Molen has a certain number of hit points. So they're 3. So they need a 3 strength to kill them. They will do 1 damage if they hit something themselves. But they take 3 to kill, so that means you need to have a strength of 3. Now, fortunately, the catapult does have that strength that it can hit those. But if I'm attacking one of those, I would not be able to do it until I increase my strength. When a regular player is on the wall, they're going to roll a certain number of 6-sided dice, depending on their weapon. They all start with 1, but they might get more. And they are going to roll to hit anything in Zone 1. They need a 4 or higher, 50% chance. In Zone 2, a 5 or higher. In Zone 3, a 6 or higher. There's an archer who rolls better. And so here I would have to roll a 6 to hit these guys. But well, I'm a strength 1, so I wouldn't be able to hit them. But let's say I was a strength 2, then I would roll this, and I would be able to take out this guy. Actually, these guys here, the standard ones are strength 1, so I could hit them. The elite one, though, is a strength 2, so you would need a strength 2 to take him out. So players are going to go around. Most of the buildings on the board are going to give you a card from the pile of the available cards, not from the big pile. So if you go to Armory, you get Armory card, Market card, Sorcery card, Tavern card. If you go to the Palace, you roll the yellow die, you'll get that much gold. If you go to the Barn, you roll the yellow die, you'll get that much food. If you go to the Sanctuary, you can get 1 food, and you can get 1 of these. Basically, these are like bonus things that you can use these in the future to add or subtract from a roll. Or you can, that's where you would go and upgrade your character and spend food to upgrade your character. If you go to the Smuggler's Hideout here, you'll roll a die, and that's the building you'll activate even if someone else is in it. And not only that, but you'll draw the card from the main pile rather than the cards that are here, because we brought in 4 Armory cards, but once these cards have been taken, there's no Armory cards available until the next season. Most of the Armory cards are going to be different weapons. So here's a light crossbow, for example. This light crossbow here lets you roll 2 dice in your attack action. It's a strength of 2, and it hits zone 2 and 3 only. So it doesn't change your numbers that you roll, but you get to roll 2 dice rather than 1. These 2 swords here lets you roll 2 dice in zone 1, but it's still a regular strength. This war axe here adds 1 to your strength, and in Zone 1 hits on a 3+ rather than a 4+. And so you'll have these, you have some things that are called massive attacks. These are one-time use, that's what that card means there. So this hits Zone 1 and Zone 2, but this also costs gold. So I'll have to pay 3 gold to use it. There are many cards that cost gold to use. However, this has a strength of 4 and rolls 3 dice in both zones. So hopefully I will be able to hit there. It's a 3+, so I have even a better than 50% chance of hitting them. And just for playing the card, I get a morale point. Some cards cost morale, some cards cost money, some cards give morale, and there are some cards that do all sorts of things. So you have to keep an eye on the cards you play. But the armory is mostly weapons and a few massive attacks. The tavern has a whole lot of massive attacks, although the tavern has a few things that when you flip them over, something bad happens to you. But usually here I can destroy a sword unit, or heavy units in this zone do not attack. These are kind of like traps. What you'll do with these cards, these have red arrows, is once you pay the cost, you'll place it in the zone, and before the enemies do their thing, you have an opportunity to let this go off, and it might stop them all from moving, or it might kill a few of them. You're basically setting traps. Sorcery is kind of a mix. It has some of these traps. It has different things you can use. It's kind of a mix of the tavern and the armory cards. The market cards are basically just random resources. Hey, you get gold, or hey, you get food. If you don't know what you want, you get an armory card. So instead of going in armory, you can go here. It's if something's run out, that's not a bad place to go to. Now, after players are done with their actions, moving around and fighting and trying to kill units, then all the units are going to go. And they do so in a programmed way. So here, it shows stars. And you're going to look at the stars of your unit. So this unit here is a 2-star unit. You can see the Gargons are 2 stars. So in this zone, 2-star units simply move forward. All units attack, then they move. So they'll move forward. Boom. Next turn, when we look at the 2 stars, you'll see they attack. So they have a ranged attack, and they'll be hitting people here. Now, some of the units can damage buildings. And if a building is damaged and then gets hit again, the building is destroyed. Although you can shore up buildings. You can also stand in a building to protect that building, although then you're going to be the one to get hit. And each hit you take will drop your morale, and if your morale is gone, you're dead. Again, you can come back, but if everyone dies, you will lose the game. So all the monsters on all 4 sides are going to program move, and then you start another turn. And you keep going until one of the victory conditions happens. Remember, the bad guys can win by killing the messenger, and if the messenger is ever in a zone alone with monsters, the monsters will attack it and kill it. So then you can send it out again if he dies twice. If you send him out and he doesn't get back in time, you'll lose. And if one of these ground troops or the big daddy gets inside the castle, you'll lose. Or if all the heroes are killed at the same time, you lose. To win, this guy has to make it out, come back. When he comes back, like I said, you'll be bringing extra models on that are chasing him back. If he makes it back, you will win the game.
Can I put this down now?
Yeah. It's a pretty heavy box.
All right.
Now, I said this game seems like a slam dunk, but
Seems, madam. Nay, I know.
In the long run, I don't think I like it. But let's start with the components. As I said at the beginning, the components are pretty much nothing short of amazing.
Amazing components, except for the little cardboard standees. It seems like they could have sprung for one more with the dragon, with that big dragon thingy that comes
Oh, yeah, well, that's a Kickstarter thing.
Come on.
Yeah, I know. The big final monster is a miniature if you did the Kickstarter. There's also extra monsters and things. But the miniatures themselves are good. The human miniatures are nice. The board itself, when you look at it, you're like, oh, that looks pretty neat. Yeah. Everything marches in. And most of the symbology is pretty easy to find.
Yeah, it's actually really simple to play the game.
That's true. It's not a very difficult game. You get some actions, you roll dice and kill stuff. Easy.
But it's kind of too hard.
Yeah, and that's really where it's at. Well, actually, I guess I agree with Sam. The game is really hard. And I emailed the designer about a couple questions I had, and he said that people can win at 50% of the time. And I'm going to take him at his word, although we're on the lower end of the 50%.
Very much lower end.
But here's the deal. It doesn't really matter how hard the game is. But because this game is so difficult, it literally, as far as I can tell, and our times playing it and looking at it from every sideways of Sundays, it feels like the dice determine whether you win or not. When we
Pretty
play
much,
a game, I can't go back and go, I would have played that differently. I could have played the exact same way, and if the dice had done things better, we would win.
It's because everything revolves around rolling the dice, though. That's the problem.
And there's no real way to mitigate them.
No, there isn't. Because, I mean, if as you're spawning the bad guys, you're rolling dice to do that. You might roll three of the same thing in the first turn, and boom, the big monster comes up in the first turn.
And it's not that uncommon for that to happen.
I know they wanted to make it like a rare occurrence for that guy to show up, but he showed up in every game we played.
Yeah,
early.
Three times of the same thing. It would be different if it was like 6, 6, and 6, but it's two sides of the dice.
Yep.
And so that's 5 or 6, 5 or 6. It's a 1/3 times 1/3 times 1/3, which is 1 out of 27, which isn't that common still, but it definitely happens.
Yes.
And then you're doing that every turn, and you're rolling 4, so you have 2 chances on the same turn, and on the first turn you have a 1/10, the second turn you have a 1/10. You can see how it's going to happen.
It's just going to build, and it will happen. Yeah. I'm usually a fan of rolling dice, and I enjoy that chaos factor of rolling dice. I really do. But here, everything you do, roll a die. Roll a die. And you just can't plan that way.
Right.
You just, and that saps a lot of the fun out. A lot of the games that I really enjoy playing dice with are games that I plan, then I roll some dice. I can handle. I love that. But with Besieged, man, you just feel like you're playing the game with one hand tied behind your back the whole time. And that's just not fun for me.
It's not just the rolling of the dice, though. There's also the card draws.
Yeah.
You're going to go and draw a card. The one pile, I hate. The resource pile.
Right.
Because you're just getting a random resource.
Yeah.
How is that planning?
Yep.
I guess you go there when there's nothing else to do. Then the tavern will give you like, hey, you can roll 4 dice here, 4 dice, but you might be the wrong zones.
Yep.
The catapult is a die. 33% of the time, it doesn't work. You have to spend an action to turn it.
Action and wasted.
Right, and so you miss. And then if you're in it, so the randomness, I love randomness. I love rolling dice, and when it works, it's great. Okay, you see all these. There's tons of enemies coming in, and you roll and you kill a whole bunch of them. But at the beginning of the game, you're like plink, 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 and then you're like, oh, finally, I can roll time. You get 4 dice against two zones, and you roll and you miss with everything.
A good alternative in feeling to this game is Carnival Zombie. Carnival Zombie's the same thing. You have all these people coming in, but from the beginning of the game, you're mowing them down. And so all of these zombies are coming in, and there's a lot of them, but you can handle it.
Ish.
Yeah, ish. With Besieged, you really can't handle it.
But you could handle it if you get really lucky. I might get up on the catapult and go kaboom, and then the guy with the archer comes out and shoots a couple people, and it works, and we clear them out. But it might also not work, and it's all luck whether it works or not.
That's only one side of the tower too. You still have 3 other sides you got to worry about.
But I don't mind the overwhelming odds, and I like the fact that the people have their own special abilities and that you can buff them up. And I tell you guys, we really tried to like this game.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, we're like, okay, we played something wrong.
Yes.
Get the rule book out. We must have done something wrong.
Right.
And we went over it and over and over. Now, we did discover one thing. The game is at its best with 4 players. And the reason for that is with 3 players, you play 2 characters each. And with 5 or 6, you play with 5 or 6 characters. The more characters, the more spawn points. Okay, so that's kind of evened out-ish again. But you also, the more characters, the more spots you're taking up. So it's my turn, and I'm like, okay, I want to go. Oh, you're already in the armory. Oh, and you're on the catapult.
Yep.
And, oh, you're over there with the gold. So I guess I'll go out on the wall. I can't even use a wall thing.
I'll go throw some rocks at the guys coming in, because that's all I can do. So it suffers from, if there's more people in the game, there's less that you can actually do on your turn, which is not bad, I suppose.
Well, in a 6-player game, it's a really long time before you go again, too.
Yeah, it is, because you go, if you have only one person out of the 6, and turns don't take a small amount of time, a person going fast can do pretty well at controlling how long their turn is, but sometimes it takes a while to get through your turn, and if you're only 1 out of 6, dude, you're sitting there for a long time, not really doing much of anything. So downtime is another concern of mine as well. It had a good. We both said it while we were playing it. It has a Ghost Stories feeling to it. He loves Ghost Stories, and I've always been kind of on Ghost Stories because of how difficult the game was, and that's one of the reasons why I'm just going to go, hard pass.
Now, I mean, it feels like we're ragging on it, and we are to some degree. Like I said, I think the components are fantastic. And I like the concept of the game.
Right.
I like the concept of enemies, and you have a messenger who's to get out. You got to clear the path for him, and I gear up and everything. But you'll get out there and go, okay, I can't even hit these enemies because they all happen to have 2 armor. So, and that's the way the messenger's heading, and there's nothing we can do. Okay, I can get on the catapult, and then you miss.
Yeah.
And again, if the things work, it's like, yay! And that's exciting. But this is a game, I think, that's fun when it's working.
Yeah.
And when you're losing, the fun just...
miserable.
It falls out.
Because you feel literally hopeless. There's nothing I can do. This is where the game ended because we cannot win now.
Yeah, like even we played some hard games before.
Yeah.
Like let's say Battlestar Galactica or something, and you're like at the skin of your teeth, you're like, but we still might make it.
Right.
Here, there's a certain point, almost always in the game, where you're like, yeah, we can't make it. The messenger literally can't get out and back in time.
Right.
Or if we make one mistake, or there's just too many enemies, we don't have the cards to handle them. We already drew all the cards we could for that season.
Correct.
All right, guys, just come and kill us. So, Coolmania not usually does good games. This one is a miss for me. And I don't know. I think some people are going to enjoy it. But it's a long game and not complex, but a lot going on does not excuse the amount of luck then.
Correct.
There's too much luck for how big the game is. If this was a 30-minute quick game, I would not mind.
Right.
Because it's as big and grandiose as it is, it bothers me. So I'm giving this one dead messenger down. I don't hate it, actually, because I want to like it so much.
Yeah, I think I think there's a good game in the box. It just...
It
wasn't in the rules.
Someone might make a good set of rules.
The rules just don't give us a good game. If somebody can take those rules and twist them and develop them a little bit, then there might be something really cool here, because I feel that it is. It's on the outer rim of that bubble of light, and it's out there, I think, but I don't see it. So I'm going with same thing as Tom here. One thumb down. I'm not even going to get creative because it's not worth it at this point. But one thumb down for me. I think there might be a good game in there somewhere, but not with this rule set. Sorry.
Besieged.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.